When the first Animal Crossing game hit the US on the GameCube in 2002, I was the ripe old age of 7. I have a distinct memory of seeing this game in stores, holding it in my little 7-year-old hands and begging my parents to get it for me. Thus started my obsession with the franchise. Flash forward to the year 2020, a year we'll never forget. Why? Because New Horizons released on the Switch, of course. What else did you think I was going to say? This game launched when the world was stuck in their homes, wishing to be anywhere else. As time has gone on, the community has moved on from New Horizons, despite countless updates. These updates have not pulled the community back into the game the way the initial release did. That all changed on October 15th, 2021. During the Animal Crossing Direct, the last for New Horizons, the community got treated to glimpses of extra storage, a chair that looks like a frog, and that illustrious pigeon, Brewster. The announcement of the free update and new DLC broke the internet and brought players back to their islands. This got me thinking, is this new update and paid DLC enough to revive a game people were starting to consider dead? Will the coffee connoisseur pigeon save the franchise? Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. 1 like equals 1 cup of coffee from our favorite Brewster. Before we can discuss whether or not a frog chair and a pigeon can save a game from dying, we need to first define what exactly a dead game is. In the words of Urban Dictionary, dead game is a popular phrase among attention-seeking Twitter users found under any sort of tweet about a game that's been getting a lot of media coverage to indicate that the hype surrounding the said game has come to a standstill, so the game is no longer worth talking about. This term may also refer to multiplayer games with a stagnant player base of less than 1,000 people playing the game at inconsistent intervals. So, being a dead game either means the hype has died down or the player base is stagnant. Nintendo put Animal Crossing back on the map with their October 15th announcement, so the game is still being hyped. Problem solved. New Horizons is not a dead game and doesn't need saving. Video over. Except that second definition exists. A dead game can also mean that the player base has moved on from the game and is no longer playing at consistent intervals. That kind of sounds like what was happening with New Horizons before the October 15th announcement. Social media is newer to the Animal Crossing franchise, as of New Leaf, that is, and is part of the reason, at least in my observation, why so many joined the community when New Horizons launched. Yes, it was for the cute animals, but it was also for the connection to the community, coming at a time when we were all craving connection. After all of the holiday events rolled out, the players have seen pretty much everything the game has to offer. Thanks to data mining, we had hopes of farming and Brewster coming to the game, but Nintendo was tight-lipped about any future updates. New Horizons came to a standstill. Many people had fallen off the island designing bandwagon. Slowly, the community began to leave their villagers alone on their islands for longer and longer stretches of time. While I don't think New Horizons ever hit a truly dead phase, thanks to so many creative designers out there, I do think it fell out of the minds of many. After all, so many people had already sunk 400 plus hours into their own game. That's longer than a lot of people stick around for most video games. I have to wonder though, did this game begin to die off well before the year mark? I think it did. I believe that New Horizons brought a new focus to the franchise, one that values self-expression. Due to the clunky design of the user interface and mechanics at the game's launch, many set the game down after a few months. Did a less than ideal user experience design kill the game? No, but it did hinder New Horizons' ability to cater to the purpose of self-expression. Since 2002, Nintendo has put out 4 main series titles to the Animal Crossing franchise, each on a different Nintendo console. This is a long-standing series that gives the player a town to live in and animals to befriend. Like, so many animals. 488 in New Horizons, to be exact. The first game wasn't wrong. The population of this franchise is really growing, and I am totally here for it. Give me those cute animals that will become my best friends as I gift them fruit and ugly clothing without wrapping paper because Tom Nook charges way too much for that, and I was a girl in debt who needed that golden statue. Shout out to me circa 2002 in Population Growing. This game gave me a way to interact with cuteness and then have the cuteness be my friend. That's all I wanted out of these games, to decorate and befriend the villagers. Population Growing, the first installment in the series, at least for the US, is the game I logged the most hours in. Even as new iterations came out, I kept going back to that original game. My memories of Animal Crossing did not involve kind villagers that aimed to please, a town I could customize, or an online community creating daily content and conversation around the game. When I booted up New Horizons and found that the villagers were nice to me from the start, I was a little confused. Static literally told me he hated my guts the first time I ever talked to him in Population Growing. Now these villagers were showering me with praises and adorations. What was going on? I've had many villagers come and go on my island, and not one of them has said an unkind thing to me. They've been acting like my BFFs since day one. I began to long for them to yell at me for getting in their way or wearing something hideous. Instead, they told me how much they missed me and complimented every outfit combination I put together, no matter how much it made the eyes bleed. As the compliments poured in, I began to realize that New Horizons was an Animal Crossing game different from its predecessors. This caused me to take a look back at the previous Animal Crossing games and figure out what was so different about New Horizons, aside from starting a town on an island. Why did I feel so different toward my villagers in this game, as opposed to Population Growing or Wild World? I've logged more hours in New Horizons than any other Animal Crossing game. Designing and terraforming an island takes so much time, no joke. That's when I realized the difference. Before New Horizons, my focus had been on slowly discovering the established town around me. The town had a mayor, at least pre-New Leaf, citizens, and a business tycoon raccoon. Okay, I know he's not a raccoon, just let me have my rhyme. Gameplay in previous installments had been focused on the player becoming part of the town. New Horizons placed a focus on the player creating the town. Up until New Horizons, I felt like the titles in the mainline series encouraged exploration and discovery, with the focus starting to shift around New Leaf. Previous games have the resident moving into an established town, with residents who have already been there and coffee shops that have been brewing before the player arrives. That all changed in New Horizons. Nintendo took the Animal Crossing formula of past games and shook it up. Instead of the player coming to an established town, the player would now have a hand in creating the town. Customization was completely in the hands of the player. The player had the power to move villagers' houses, change up cliffs, and place down pathways. Never before had the player been given so much control over the town. Not only that, but New Horizons was the first main title to feature full character customization right from the start. Gone are the random questions being asked as you were driven to the town that somehow determined what the player character would look like. The focus of the games shifted from discovery to self-expression. The player wasn't asked to become part of the town, they were asked to create the town in New Horizons. Design an island where villagers would want to live and those in online communities would want to visit. This made the game easy to share with others online. Scroll through Pinterest or Instagram, and you'll be met with thousands of islands to look at, all unique to the player who created them. It doesn't matter so much that the player went and talked to the residents every day to slowly earn their friendship. The villagers' love was there for the player at the start. This allowed players to focus on creating a dream island. Villagers went from characters to befriend to characters to collect. This shift in focus caused people to miss the villagers of the older games. What happened to the sassy villagers or the many NPCs we've come to know and love? The community felt that they were owed what was once there before, even though New Horizons set out to do something different. I think our desire to have the familiar in the game is warranted, but I wonder if this in any way hindered people's ability to enjoy the game. I know for me, I did start to miss some of the old things, but that was after over 100 hours of gameplay. I mean, if a game could keep me easily invested for 100 hours, then I say that's a win. This does not excuse the flaws of New Horizons, but I think in order for this game to have a revival, we need to be reminded of the focus. A focus that was made so clear with the announcement of the Happy Home Paradise DLC. What's the focus? Self-expression and creativity. That's what Nintendo has put front and center in the New Horizons game. New Horizons shook up the Animal Crossing franchise, but I believe this change was foreshadowed. As the titles progress, you can slowly start to trace the threads of creation and self-expression becoming the focus. New Leaf allowed the player to be the mayor and pick certain design features for the town. Happy Home Designer allowed the player to come up with a design for different villagers to appease their interests. Pocket Camp brought in the mechanic of crafting and designing a small public space for villagers to enjoy. We've gone from discovery to self-expression, exploration to creation. I don't think one is better than the other. I'm glad Nintendo isn't giving us the same Animal Crossing game reskinned over the various platforms. I applaud the team for trying new concepts and giving the player a new way to interact with the franchise. When asked about how Animal Crossing came to be, Katsuye Iguchi, sorry for the mispronunciation, said, "Animal Crossing features 3 themes: family, friendship, and community. But the reason I wanted to investigate them was a result of being so lonely when I arrived in Kyoto. Chiba is east of Tokyo and quite a distance from Kyoto, and when I moved there, I left my family and friends behind. In doing so, I realized that being close to them, being able to spend time with them, talk to them, play with them, was such a great important thing. I wondered for a long time if there would be a way to recreate that feeling, and that was the impetus behind the original Animal Crossing." To Iguchi, a key concept of the franchise is people communicating with each other. The creators of the Animal Crossing franchise wanted to spark conversation around the game. They wanted to encourage players not only to communicate with their villagers, but communicate with their friends in real life. Animal Crossing was to serve as a fun topic in a game where IRL friends were experiencing the same things at the same time. They could talk about the things their villagers said, or how their museum collection was coming along, or how annoyed they were that Tom Nook kept asking for more bells. New Horizons expands this conversation, asking the player to create and imagine. Through playing New Horizons, I've been able to reconnect with old friends and meet so many new ones. This is the point behind New Horizons and the entire Animal Crossing franchise: people communicating and connecting. So, to answer the question at the beginning of the video, yes, I do believe a pigeon can save New Horizons. That pigeon represents the connection to the game so many players feel. That pigeon helps the players to converse and connect, creating an Animal Crossing community not only within the game and within our islands, but with others around the world. Before you put New Horizons back on the shelf, ask yourself, has this game helped me to connect to others around me? Because at the end of the day, that was the goal of the creators. They set out to create a game that would spark conversation and connection between friends, family, and new people around the world. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate your support. Go ahead and drop a little pigeon or bird emoji in the comment section so I know that you're one of the greats who made it to the end. And let me know which was your favorite Animal Crossing game in the franchise. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.